What's up, everyone? This is Christian Duke, co-host, one half of Mid-Atlantic Muscle. Today is March the 7th, the Wednesday after the 30th Arnold Classic. And here we are yet one more time. Usually these things are once a week, but this was an Instagram Live that I had planned on doing last week, and we had our graphic designer Nadeem from London, not London, Kentucky, London, United Kingdom, come up with the graphic, and it's just something that Donna and I planned on doing today. I'd like to say hello to Ken's Possible, Big Dog _2662, BB Custom Suits, who always comes on. BB Custom Suits is one of our great sponsors alongside Olympia Tan, Iron Mag Labs, and Affordable Athletic Supplements. As you guys know, tonight we're going to be joined very shortly by IFBB Women's Bodybuilding Pro and your 2017 Miss Kentucky, Donna Williams Salib. But before we do that, and Donna has joined us, but I have a few things that I have to say. It's crazy, like in one day, how much stuff happens. So I'm going to go ahead and read. I want to remind you guys that on March the 17th, we have the Olympia Tan NPC Natural Eastern, which is actually just about 5 minutes outside of downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Our good friend Artie Caldwell Jr., your 2014 Team Universe middleweight and overall champion, will be guest posing there. So you want to be sure to head over to Pittsburgh and not miss the very first show of the NPC calendar, the NPC Natural Eastern. Also, the following week, March the 24th, we have Jeff and Angie Sherman's NPC Northern Kentucky Grand Prix Championships, title sponsored by our sponsor, Affordable Athletic Supplements. That is in Covington, Kentucky. You want to be sure to attend that. Mid-Atlantic Muscle will be there in full force. Next, I'd like to say that the interviews with Adam Atkinson from See You Later Leaner, as well as Artie Caldwell Jr. and King, got to get the King in there, King George Brown, will be available tomorrow at midatlanticmuscle.net. That's midatlanticmuscle.net. I also want to encourage everyone watching this to please follow us if you haven't already done so at Mid-Atlantic Muscle. This way you can stay up to date with everything that we're doing here in the MAZ, the Mid-Atlantic Zone. Next, one of our executive producers, Mr. Gary Udit, who happens to be the chairman of the NPC Mid-Atlantic Zone, as well as our other executive producer, Rick Bayardi, have both encouraged all of you through us to please submit questions to our email, midatlanticmuscle@gmail.com. So any questions that you have, send to midatlanticmuscle@gmail.com, and if your question is selected, it will be read on the air. You will be mentioned, and you will also get a Mid-Atlantic Muscle t-shirt, which are going to be in very, very limited supply. Next, I would like to talk about the True Novice Division, something that our chairman, Gary Udit, is very, very passionate about. And the True Novice Division is something that we hope that all of the promoters in the Mid-Atlantic Zone will offer at their respective competitions. And this gives competitors that have never competed in the division an opportunity to compete alongside folks just like themselves. A very good question was asked of my co-host, Jimmy Hornbeck, and it was by a competitor that said, well, I've competed in figure for X amount of shows, and I believe she won her class, but now she wants to compete in bikini for the very first time. Would she be able to compete in Bikini True Novice? And the answer is yes. Also, I will have a website called TrueNovice.com that's going to be debuting here shortly. So if you're going to compete in the True Novice division, or you're a coach, or you know someone that's going to compete in True Novice, let them know. We're going to do some interviews, some videos, some pictures, just another way to get the athletes out there in that True Novice category that's so very important. Also, some news, special thanks to GNC, General Nutrition Centers, for being the presenting sponsor of Mr. Jim Mannion's NPC IFBB Pittsburgh Championships, May the 4th and the 5th. And if you're not yet planning on going to that huge show, let me just let you know about some of the guest posers at our President's Competition. There is going to be Nathan Diasha, Big Ramy, your 7-time Mr. Olympia Phil Heath, your 5-time Arnold Classic champion Dexter the Blade Jackson, Ruli Winkler, and the Big Bad Wolf, Dennis Wolf. They will all be guest posing at the 2018 Pittsburgh Championships, NPC IFBB Pittsburgh Championships. Also, This morning, I received a communication from Dean Caputo, who would like for me to attend, make an appearance, and cover the 2018 North Coast Championships. If there are any requests, you can, of course, contact me, but they will ultimately go to Rick and Gary. That was approved, so I will be there, possibly along with Hector Mendoza, who's our technical producer. And I'm really looking forward to being there. Dean Caputo and Greg Krause put together a great competition. In fact, so many competitors actually, wait the whole year to go there. So I'm really excited about that. So now, and yes, I still have not removed my Arnold Classic wristband. So I think we're ready. Yes, absolutely. Pittsburgh is going to be on fire. I mean, not literally, but it's figuratively speaking, those guest posers are second to none. The depth of the lineup there is amazing. There's a who's who of bodybuilders, current, past, and present, and current, past, and present. Yeah, guys, I'm like, I'm a little tired, but it's awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and bring on our guest, who is Donna Williams Salib, who I believe is here. And Donna is an IFBB Women's Bodybuilding Pro. She's your Miss Kentucky. And there she is.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing good.
Fantastic. So we had planned on doing this last week, but with the Arnold Classic and everything, it was just utter mayhem. So how are you doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Okay.
Glad to be here.
Good. And I really appreciate it because, I think that women's bodybuilding, truthfully, is making a comeback. I tagged Wings of Strength in this, and a lot of the Tim Gardner promotions are, really including the division. It's doing very well. And, of course, Gene and Tina Good included women's bodybuilding in the 2017 Kentucky Open, which you won that competition. And when, take us back. I mean, I want to cover your journey from A to Z, but take us back to that competition last year, because I remember when you got on stage, the crowd just went nuts. What was that like?
It was sheer joy, that's for sure. I didn't think that opportunity would be back in Kentucky, so for Gene to put that in the show, that was phenomenal. To give me the opportunity to step back on stage in my home, that was big. So it felt so amazing to be back on stage. I wasn't expecting the crowd to get as crazy as they did, but it was pretty awesome. It felt real good. It felt like home.
Absolutely. And, it is home. Kentucky is your home, and having that title is very, very important. But I guess, because we've done interviews before, but for the folks that may not have seen those interviews, and again, I think this one's going to go through every corner of the Mid-Atlantic zone and beyond. How did you get involved with weight training? Because I know you're also an accomplished power lifter, and I know that powerlifting, from what you explained to me, is a little bit different than bodybuilding, but you're basically a pro in powerlifting also.
Yes, we consider that they're called elite. I'm a raw powerlifter, so for the total that I've gotten, I'm considered pro.
Okay. So how did you get involved, though, I would say, with everybody exercises to a certain degree, but how did you get involved with actual weight training for muscle building and competitive purposes?
It's a pretty common story that you'll probably hear, but I had an eating disorder, and I had the opportunity to have a phenomenal friend who kind of stepped in and helped me get started, learning how to eat properly and everything so I could stay healthy. I wanted to be healthy for my son because I was single mom raising him, and I just fell in love with the ability to be strong and feel good about myself, and I've continued all this time.
So when you started lifting, did you find that the muscle just came on quickly? Was it something that you really had to work at, or did your body just really respond to it in a natural way?
No, this is something that takes time. I mean, anything worth having takes time, and it takes patience. I know a lot of people are into the instant gratification, but part of the process that I have enjoyed is watching my body change over the years as it's matured. And, just the process itself, learning about the human body and how it works and how everything collates together.
And I see that T. Fit, which is Tisha Owen, joined, and I saw her at the Arnold Classic, and she came to the Muscle Jaws booth, and we talked a little bit and took a photo, which I still have not published. There's so many photos, and she's awesome, and I'm really happy that she's here. But, I have to tell you, women's bodybuilding, I mean, has been through really the ringer. I mean, if you listen to some of the people, some of the talking heads, if you will, at the national level, only really the national, not international, but the national level, they're basically saying, women's bodybuilding's on the ropes, it's about dead, and yet you go to an Arnold Classic, you go to an Olympia, you go to LA Fit Expo, you go to any of these large events, and whether it's Denise Messino or Alina Papa or Linda Murray, I mean, the people can't get enough. They can't get enough. And again, we're not talking about like the weirdo fans. I mean, we're talking about actual fans, muscular women. There's plenty of the weirdo fans, but that's for the men and the women. And they're a very, very tiny minority of the larger spectrum of fans. But in other words, where do you see the future of muscular women, competitive muscular women? I'm including women's physique and women's bodybuilding. I mean, how do you see it from your vantage point?
I don't see it dying out. I mean, I know that there's a lot of misconception of muscular women. So I think if people see, some of the real reasons why women do this, why we get involved in it and things, like one of my reasons that I continue to do this because I want to teach women that it's okay to be strong, that it's okay to have muscle. I defeated something that wasn't healthy by getting into bodybuilding. So I'm hoping that I can show ladies that they can also do the same. I think once that misconception of people thinking that women are manly or whatever, once they're educated and they actually understand why we do this, because it's a pretty broad spectrum of people who actually think this is an awesome thing. I think we have the capability of keeping it alive. We just got to get women to come to the shows, do the shows. If you know that there's a women's bodybuilding division in a show, you want to do it. That's what's going to keep this alive. Jean and Tina put it in their show, and we had, I think, maybe 3 to 4 show up. We need to have more than 3 to 4 show up. We need to just continue to do this in order for it to continue. It can be done.
No, and absolutely, and I really think you nailed the point on the head. You nailed the nail on the head. I'm sorry, I'm still tired from the Arnold. I gotta tell people.
Want some of my coffee?
Yeah, no, and I've got my Diet Mountain Dew here. Which they did not sponsor the show. But again, no. But I think you really nailed it in the sense that it's really about education and what we are combating. We meaning muscular women as well as fans of physique-based sports is this really, really backwards, sexist, ignorant way of thinking that muscle is masculine. Muscle is not masculine. Muscle it belongs to men and women. You don't become manly by having muscle. And if you think that, then you're a buffoon. But there's people like that. And so I think it really, comes down to education. Bodybuilding, of course, all of the divisions are important. In my eyes, they're all important and they're all equally valid. But let's be honest. Bodybuilding is what got this whole thing started. Men's bodybuilding and women's bodybuilding.
Well, and two, I like to project this idea. I'm not great at painting. I'm not good at drawing, things like that. I'm great at lifting weights. I'm great at being in the gym. So to me, this is my art. This is how I portray what beauty is. This is my art form. So to me, I'm building a sculpture. So if you want to look at it at that aspect, everybody has a different way of presenting what they think is beautiful. And this happens to be my favorite.
And I think it goes back to something that IFBB Men's Physique Pro George Brown said yesterday. And whenever George gets on the treadmill and does a live video, there's always at least 2 or 3 people that will say, "Hey, George, why don't you move up to classic men's physique?" And George says, "Why should I move up to classic men's physique when I do men's physique so well? When men's physique is how I express myself through my physique and through my posing on stage, why should I leave something that I love to do something for someone else or to do something?"
Right.
So in the same vein, why should a woman's bodybuilder have to pick women's physique or figure or any other division? Why should so there's really no reason for that. And so
that's one reason why I stepped away from bodybuilding for just a little bit and stepped into the powerlifting realm, because they had taken women's bodybuilding out of the Olympia, out of the Arnold. And in my opinion, they were still trying to figure out what the look was for physique. And when I started this to be on that Arnold stage, on the Olympia stage. That was my goal. Mm-hmm. Well, those were taken away from me, so I kind of stepped back and I went another route. I went into powerlifting. And then when Gene and them brought that back, that's when I stepped back in, because I saw that there's still the potential women's bodybuilding. Maybe another voice needed to be heard, to keep it alive.
Well, I think that, it's definitely not something they wanted to do. And it's something that I'm sure is always, on their minds about bringing back. And the Wings of Strength is certainly a step in the right direction. And I'm confident that one day we may see a Miss International and Miss Olympia again, because quite frankly, like I said, it really, I don't know for a fact, but I can tell you that it must have, seriously pained them to do that. In the end, it was a business move. It wasn't personal. But I do believe that, with the correct marketing and more shows like Gene and Tina, who quite frankly are pioneers here in the Bluegrass State doing that other promoters perhaps in the state and other promoters perhaps in the MAS and throughout the NPC will follow suit. And it would be great if the trend was set right here in Kentucky, and that Kentucky served as a model. That would be really cool. But aside from that, the fact is that you also do powerlifting. And, your advice is great. I mean, if you know someone that would, be able to compete as a women's bodybuilder, and, the same way that we have crossovers between bikini and figure, why not crossovers between women's physique and bodybuilding?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've seen that's common, even at the Kentucky State and the Open. A few of the girls that were doing the women's physique did the bodybuilding also. I mean, it's great to see women being able to display their beauty that way and having that option. But to have two options versus the one would be even better.
Absolutely. So talk to us about doing the IFBB Pro League North American Championships, because, that's where you turned pro, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So talk to us about that. And this competition, I don't think people even begin to realize how insane in a really good way it is, because you're competing against competitors from all throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Explain that if you could.
This show was absolutely phenomenal. I cannot even express how much fun I had at this show, but how well it was ran. Gary does a great job at all of his shows. This was the largest show I had done nationally. I had stepped away from bodybuilding for a good while, and then I came back to the state show, which qualified me for the North Americans. I went in pretty positive that I would do okay. I didn't know, because I'd been out of the room for a while. I felt good about what I was bringing to the stage and whatnot, but there's a lot of competitive women out there, and at one of these shows at this level, everybody's good. They're the best of the best. So when it comes to national show level, you never know who's going to show up. So I went ahead and entered in the different divisions that I thought that I could do okay in. I did the 35 and over, and I did the 40. I'm 43, so ladies, it's never too late. Never too late. You can do this. So I had no idea that I would be able to win all 3 categories. My main objective, of course, was to win the overall, the Open. And it was just a phenomenal feeling. I mean, I cannot even say what emotions that I went through that day. I mean, I was crying on stage because I was so excited. I had always told my son when he was little, your mom was going to be a pro one day. It took me quite a few years, but we did it. So I was super excited. No,
I was grinning because you don't look 43, but we have someone here that just joined IFBB Pro, Jamie B, and she says she's 53. So
awesome, Jamie.
And it's something about, again, muscular women and women in the more muscular divisions, as they get older. I think Lisa Auckland, IFBB Pro women's bodybuilder, is competing like in her mid-50s. And there's about the women that compete in the more muscular divisions, they look younger. and as they get older, they look younger. Whereas a lot of guys, when they get older, they start falling apart. I mean, literally.
Right.
So it's a very interesting phenomenon, and I totally agree, because of course Gary puts on great shows, and the North Americans, honestly, I mean, I personally know before the change, before the IFBB Pro League came, and it was all just one IFBB, I knew of many competitors from Canada and Mexico that wouldn't even bother going to the nationals at their countries, and would come to the IFBB North Americans because they loved the way that they were judged. They loved the venue. They loved the stage. They just loved everything that Gary put together. So, and the fact that you went pro 3 times, and you didn't mention it, but you've mentioned it to me before. You took 1 pro card and allowed 2 other people to get theirs, right?
Correct. I could only imagine someone else feeling what I felt. I went and achieved my objective. I wanted to win the Open. So with the others, let somebody else have that feeling, let them feel that excitement, that fulfillment of, I did this, so, and that was a good feeling too, knowing that somebody else was going to feel as good as I did.
Now, powerlifting is a very, very selfish sport, and I don't mean that as a knock at all, but yeah. Do your powerlifting buddies, do they understand what it is that you were doing on the bodybuilding side, or did some of them want you to stay 100% exclusive to powerlifting?
Honestly, I'll tell you this. There's quite a few of them that do both.
Okay.
I know Shayna Miller. She did Tricky Show in October a couple of years ago. She's a power lifter, very well-known world record holding power lifter. Elena Cordone, she just turned pro also in women's physique up in Pittsburgh with me. She's a well-known power lifter. There's a couple of people that I know coming up in the next few shows that are local that are power lifters going to do bodybuilding. The best of luck to all of them. It's a cut and dry thing, I mean, some guys think that powerlifting, you can eat whatever you want. Bodybuilding, they're vain, whatever. It's a 50-50 toss up. If you've got discipline, if you're dedicated to what your goal is, then you can do both.
What shows are you looking at, or are there any that you are looking at competing?
Yeah, I've had an amazing improvement season, so I plan on stepping on the stage around July. In my mind, I've got set for like the Chicago Pro, which is July. Linda Murray has Wings of Strength in July also. Those are both on my calendar to do. Jean and Tina were kind enough to ask me to do guest posing at the state show this year, August 18th. That's going to be in Owensboro. I'm very honored to do that show. They opened the opportunity for me to come back into women's bodybuilding, and now they're having me come back as a guest poser on the stage that I won. So I'm very excited and very honored to be their guest poser in August. And then depending on how well we do, I'm planning on doing good, of course, in July, which that will qualify me to do the Wings of Strength in Arizona. So that's the big one. That's my big goal. I've got big dreams, but I'm realistic about them. A lot of hard work ahead. I know this isn't going to be an easy road, but I'm not afraid to work. So hopefully some more ladies will be jumping on board and trying to catch that dream too.